Hello, everyone. We're here at Tony's Pizza in Corona, 104th Street. I have a great guest today. His name is Sal Ranella. For over 30 years, he is both a loving artist, educator, and a musician. He received the Florida Motion Picture Award for unproduced screenplay entitled Good Friday. He has written and produced and directed. Many of his accomplishments include from comedy, Austin's Angel, to horror, Camp Stories, to TV pilots like Geek to Guido. So tell me, Sal, how do you know when you're finished, when your story's finished, when to walk away?
Wow, that's a good question. Holy smokes. You just get this natural feeling in your gut that you've left everything as a boxer would on the mat. You just feel it. I mean, because the whole idea is to put as much emotions in it as you can.
What drives you to make a film?
Wow. The initial drive and the drive today is two different things, you know? But the initial drive was that you get to tell a story, you know, like I loved comic books and I wanted to like bring things to life. Today's impetus is that filmmaking or media. Thank you. Wow. Grazie. Where making a film, you get to use every media that you can imagine. Fashion, art, wardrobe, hair coloring, music. It all comes together, interestingly enough.
What do you feel is harder, to get started or to keep going?
Let me answer both of them. Probably a little of each because most people are doing it for a little bit. They watch Sopranos or Seinfeld and they think, wow, I think I could do something like that. But they're probably thinking, which door do I open to get started? Now, the second part, now, when you're doing it for some time, you have to now carry a team. And then you have to carry the ideas. So there's that you have to take time to put the time in to execute it. You know, the logistics side of it. And then there's the execution of making the film. And then there's parts of it. Do I really want to get up this morning and attack part of it?
So tell me, how much you think commerce affects your art?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, it comes down to, do I want to eat? So if I want to eat, I'm going to be more commercially viable, right? I'll be willing to take jobs and do other people's work, as opposed to just staying in my basement and doing artsy stuff, art for the sake of art. It comes down to art versus eat, but if you can figure out into the equation that at some point you have to sell it, then you have to put the time and energy into it, regardless of your budget.
Right. It's like the New York hustle, right?
It's a hustle, baby, and I'm gonna eat as you ask questions.
That's all right. So what do you think is the one mistake most filmmakers make regardless of experience?
Wow. Well, I think what I've observed, this is only what I've observed, is that a lot of times they're filmmakers, they're good with the camera, but what's happening with the actors is left out, or with their clothes, or with the location, or with the sound, or with the color. And it's very important that you at least at some level, give some attention to sound and coloring, and you know.
Sound is very important.
Very important.
A lot of film festivals won't even consider you if the sound is not good.
That's correct.
We all hear so often about the lack of original stories in the world. What we've all seen it before. How do you stay fresh in the face of an idea like that?
Well, they say there's only X amount of stories. The truth of the matter is everyone's writing a hero story, and like the Greek tragedy or Shakespeare. How I stay fresh is when I have to go to a spot and I look at it and I walk back and I go, boy, that's a little cliche-ish. You allow for improvisation from everybody to now take it somewhere else. Because if it's too cliche, it's so boring. You want to put something in from your own life story, or maybe something you saw this morning when you're filming, and you go, boy, that would change that outcome.
Sal, what really made you pursue filmmaking?
I started with music, and then I went into acting. Well, if I tell you a story, it's a funny story. I worked at Terrace on the Park, ran into this beautiful girl named Linda, and she said, and I was like infatuated right away. And she goes, "Come and meet me Monday. I'm auditioning for something at the school." I go, "Wow, I go to the same school." But even before that, I loved playing with my action figures. I loved playing with the kids in the backyard, and I'd be the guy saying to everybody, "You be the cowboy, you be the Indian, and I'll be the prison guard," or whatever. And then after a few minutes, we shoot each other. You die, I die, and the show's over, and then we'll start something else. And so it just, you do things so much in your life, and then you add a father who's like, everything was like prim and proper. He was directing me all day long. You add all that with all the art that I studied. Filmmaking is something that's about to come out.
What roadblocks did you face when you started in the industry?
Gosh, I have roadblocks, barriers, and obstacles every single day. It's either money, sometimes in New York it's the weather, the trains, girlfriends, mothers, fathers, in-laws. Probably the biggest one is money, time. I mean, everybody says that, right? But nowadays with YouTube, you can go on YouTube and study something, study it 1,000,000 times over without ever leaving the house, you know? I mean, I had friends that played piano so well by the time they even were allowed to cross the street. So I would say being self-initiative, you know, giving yourself the initiative to, you know, you have to be your own rocket fuel. So you have to say to yourself, when is it time to study? When is it time to look at others and study what's happening in life? And then when is it a time to apply it? Because if you don't apply it, then you're never the artist.
How did you come up with the idea for your film, Good Friday?
Well, my friend Deborah, who's in the show that you saw the other night, I don't know if you got to see her sing, but Deborah Toscano, while we were going to college, invited me to go down and audition for Godfather's Meshuggah Wedding. So I got to play the priest, and I found it very one-dimensional. And at some point, when I moved to Florida, I said, you know, I'm going to massage something with a priest. And then it turned into Good Friday.
Do you have any advice for young filmmakers out there?
The best advice I can give is go out and live life, because if the more you live life, then you have more things to fall back on, how to write something, how to fill something in on the set. See, actors that do enough plays know how to fix something right on the spot. So a filmmaker that's coming from the camera world knows how to use the camera, and then you mix it with living life, and then of course taking classes. The more you can take classes and know how to use a camera lens and what camera lens, it all helps.
So tell me, do you think it is essential to go to a film institute in order to become a successful filmmaker?
I don't know if it applies to everybody, but it sure can't hurt. I mean, I've taken a lot of classes. I went to school for music and then acting and then music. And I've taken a lot of private classes on script writing, filmmaking. Hey, it can't hurt. Because if you're in a group of people, like-minded people, it can only help. Because De Niro, Scorsese, Harvey Keitel, they all went to NYU, I think, and they all became. And then you had Brian De Palma, then you had Francis Ford Coppola. They helped each other. Isn't that cool?
We would like to know what film has inspired you the most.
I'd have to say The Godfather. Da-na-na-na. Well, everybody says it, and it's so cliche, but I say it because I read the book a few times, and then when you watch the movie, it kind of like is a great script in itself. Usually books aren't the greatest scripts because they're not written, they jump. But The Godfather, each scene resolves into the next scene.
Tell me, which particular filmmaker has influenced you the most?
I'd say a few of them. Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Quentin Tarantino. I even like comedies, you know, Naked Gun, Mike Myers and Austin Powers. I mean, Airplane. Mel Brooks is at the top of the list for me.
What makes a film great for you? Are there certain qualities that make a film better for you?
There is. A film that can be more than just explosions, a film that has like character development, a story that from beginning to end has a lot of different things that happen in life: birth, death, communions, baptisms, bar mitzvahs, and also coming of age moments.
When you get angry at a movie, what sets you off? Are there common qualities in cinema today that you dislike?
Well, yeah, those are all different questions, but I'll answer them as best I can, you know. Do I get angry when I watch a film? Of course I do. Maybe the editing is horrible. Maybe it's all explosions and there's no dialogue. Maybe they left out the best part of the story. You go back and you go, wait a minute, that's not how it went. But they maybe wanted to save money. They didn't want to get a lawsuit. And, it's like you've heard the saying, you got to get all your ducks in a row. And that's really what it is. It's like it's up to the filmmaker what ducks he wants to get up in a row in regards to what the story he's trying to tell. Because each filmmaker is a storyteller. That's why we do it, because we want to tell a story.
Is there something you can try to subvert or avoid or rebel against in your work?
There's something do I avoid? Well, try to avoid cliches to the best of my ability, and then you massage it, because there is, if you go really deeper and you break through, there's something on the other side of cliches. Like, bada bing, bada boom. Oh, I'm an Italian guy, can't you tell? But not every Italian talks that way. You know? So I try to avoid that unless that character needs to be drawn out, painted as a cliche.
Is it the filmmaker's responsibility to find and develop your audience?
That's a marketing question, which could be good because once you find your niche, you stay in that niche. And I mean, there's filmmakers like Clint Eastwood that go all over the place, as does now Martin Scorsese. You know, I mean, everybody thought Scorsese would have done Jersey Boys. Clint Eastwood did Jersey Boys. But, you try to work with what you have. And then there's a lot of directors that may never get any success except for film festivals, and your friends and family come down and enjoy it. And there you go.
What do you think the audience wants? Is it the filmmaker's role to worry about that?
Well, that's if the filmmaker's working with a studio and the studio puts certain obligations on him and restrictions and say, listen, we sell movies that go like this and you're going like this. So it's very important that you stay like this for our core audience.
So tell me, what role has film festivals played in your life so far? Why are they necessary?
Well, I've won about 5 or 6 awards or more. Actually, in one film festival, I won 4 for Geek to Guido. Festivals are great. You meet people, you talk to people. Anything you do, even the other night when I was doing stand-up comedy, it was intimate. We all had a chance to talk to each other. You imagine if there was 5,000 people there. How much time would I have had to talk to you privately, right? So everything has its place.
Would a film critic make a good director?
He could be a director, but could he be a good director? It's hard because a film critic already has a preconceived notion when he goes and sees a movie. Oh, he needs to have this, he needs this. Usually critics are guys that failed, but I'd give them a chance. Everyone deserves a chance.
So tell me, Sal, what's a good way to network?
Well, marketing is a whole different ballgame. People think marketing is promotion. It's actually marketing and promotion, which is marketing is you have people find who would like what you're selling, right? And then also what people that go to the movies would like to see, you know? So it takes a whole team.
Is being a film director challenging?
It's very challenging. I could have stuck to being an actor, and here I am. I'm an actor. But the director is the guy who's in charge of making sure the script is portrayed correctly, the location is correct, the finances are there, the food is delivered on time, the dancing girls in the background. No, I'm just joking. The geisha girls coming. No, I'm just joking. But you know what I'm saying? There's so much of responsibility. It's almost, you have to make sure that you could dot every I, cross every T, and make sure everything is like exactly the way you promised everyone else that it was going to be.
So, what's the best piece of advice that you got throughout your career?
Well, Harvey Keitel told me to keep going. That was a good piece of advice. Um, other advice I've gotten is that you're the filmmaker, so it's your story. Um, there's so much advice, and a lot of it comes down to live life and work with people. I think that's the best because ultimately it's working with people, and it's actually about communication. Like you communicate, because art is communication. Communication is art, and it's like you said, it's subjective. So it's like your communication. So if I had to take, like the guy was saying earlier, he shows his idea to 10 people. 10 people go, it sucks. So now I got to rewrite my script because 10 friends of mine that are plumbers, bus drivers, and knuckleheads, I stick to what I believe in. And with enough massaging, then you present it.
So, Sal, what are you working on now?
Professionally for myself, I'm working on something called Good Friday. And the rest of the week looks pretty good too. And if you come to Ernie's, any day of the week is pretty good. The food's great here. It's about an Italian priest. I play the Italian priest. You imagine that. I play an Italian priest called Anello Bello. Boy, that has a nice ring to it. Caught between two families that run social clubs. And it's hilarious. We have guys from Sopranos, Goodfellas, Bronx Tale. We just did a couple of scenes with we did a handful of scenes with Joe D'Onofrio, who played young Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. And then we also did with Louis Venaria, who played Crazy Mario in Bronx Tale. Those scenes are fabulous. I mean, these guys are pros. And that, I would say, is the secret, is you got to get a good cast. First is a good script or a good blueprint. And then you could find good actors that could bring it to life. And then the other thing I'm working on is other projects for other people, because people do hire me to write, produce, direct. So I'm working on other people's stuff, which is pretty cool. Matter of fact, I'm going to Florida in a few days to work on Jan Johnson's script. She wrote this really cool script, and she brought me in to edit it. And I gave her my idea. She goes, "You're not editing it." I go, "Okay." She goes, No, I want you to co-write it. I want you to help me take it apart." And she wrote a great script. But all the ideas I gave her, she goes, "That's what's missing from my script." Every time I'd say something. So that's what I'm working on. There's many other things, but you work. You have to take and practice your craft.
So, what are you doing when you're not directing?
That's a good question, Vinny. Thank you for asking. When I'm not doing art, I'm actually doing other art. I play in a band. I play bass in a band. So you got to go home and learn the songs. Then go to rehearsal. I'm supposed to have a rehearsal tonight at 9. We'll see. If not, it'll happen tomorrow night. I also, you work on your craft because it's the ABCs of your craft. A, B, C, S. It's an art. You have to learn the basics. You have to work on your craft because that's what makes somebody good. You've done it enough times. And then there's a science to all that. So if you figure out like how to cut wood each time at this certain angle, you've got the science down. So it's not like I'm on the set and I have to like... The cool thing about doing stand-up, which I was doing when you came out Friday night, I get to work on all the material that's in my head that may not go anywhere. And you work on material and you practice every day and you practice with friends. Actually, we're filming Good Friday not far from here. And one day I said, "No lunch break. We're going to film me doing my stand-up, and you guys are going to be the audience." They loved it. So you do other art when you're not doing your main art. And I'm helping a guy with his film and his reality show. Then we're going to do a reality show on Corona called My Corona, the crown jewel of Queens, New York. I'm also working with a model on her script. So there's a lot of stuff. And then when you're not doing that, you're watching films and reading scripts. Or writing scripts to get your craft honed.
Sal, I want to thank you for spending some time with us here, and want to thank the owners of Tony's Pizza, Ernie, for giving us the opportunity to do the interview. Have a good day.